Okay, today we're going to do a triptych bookmark card. It looks something like this, where you have an overall pattern and then you cut it in thirds and equal pieces with a backing behind it so that it looks like it's continuous. Just kind of a little trick of the eye. And then there'll be a little detachable bookmark on the side. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is take a piece of 8.5 by 11 paper and put the short side up against the cutter and cut at 5.5. And then we're going to score it, and it's going to be scored at 4.25 and 8.5. So it should look like this, and then it'll fold over like that. I have one that I already stamped previously. So now what we're going to do is, on the front, you're going to cut a piece of pattern paper. You need to have two coordinating patterns. One, I have this one that's somewhat solid, and then a pattern over it so that there's a nice contrast. So you're going to cut it at 4 by 5.25. 4 by 5.25 is your standard size card mat. Okay, I'm going to put some adhesive on this. And then center it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut 3 even pieces. And the pieces are 1.25 by 5.25. No, I'm sorry, 1.25 by 5. Okay? And what you do is you make sure when you cut them that you have the pattern continuing. So you know where one pattern ends and the next one begins. So, which I think I've messed mine up a little bit. So that it looks like it's continuous. Like you see, you can tell more on this pattern that I used here that the lines are continuous. Here it's hard to tell when you're on a floral pattern where it starts and where it ends. So I'm going to mess with this a little bit more and see if I can get it to, I think it's here. It's hard to tell on this one. I had it all straightened out, but anyway. So just make sure that your patterns are lined up together. This one is very hard to tell, and I had it, and then I messed it up because I had it in order. But it's sort of like the eye can't really tell that it's lined up. So anyway, so then you take your pieces and you put adhesive on the back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to align my first and last piece. The first piece first, and then the last piece, and then do the middle last, so that you make sure that you're lined up okay. So then you make sure that there's the same amount of space between the first and the second, and the second and the third. So I'm eyeballing it, but I'm trying to line it up so that it looks like it's the same. So now when I take my third piece, I will know in between how much space to give. It's a little difficult when you're eyeballing it But as long as you have the same amount of space in between the three, you get the same, you get the effect. I should have had a little bit more space, but I didn't do it quite even, but it still looks pretty good. Okay, so now on the bookmark part of it, then you're going to cut a piece that measures, this one is 2 1/4 by 5 1/4 for the background piece. 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. And then when you look at it, you try to line it up so that it is even with the front of the card. And then I'm putting this part here. This one doesn't really matter because it's not continuous from the first two. But in this particular pattern, it kind of looks like it is. But you can always, when you're figuring out which pattern you want, you can make it as close. You could still cut it all together and then then separate them apart, so then you have the continuous pattern across the bookmark as well. Okay, so now I'm going to just decorate the front. I just punched out a little scallop circle here, and then I'm going to put that. You should line it up, probably only have it over a little bit because it has to fit in the envelope. So I'm putting that down here. And then I made a couple of little butterflies. And I'm going to pop them up. I can find my pop dots. I'm going to put the little butterfly in the middle there. And then I have another butterfly for the front of the card. And I'm going to kind of just put it down here like that. And then I have a couple little sequins. I'm going to put one up here and one down here. And then I stamped a sentiment in the middle there for Happy Mother's Day. And then there you go. You can fold it this way and then put it in the envelope, and when they open it up, they can just detach this. If you had a perforating blade, you can do that, and then they can just pull it apart. And then they have a little bookmark there. Okay, thanks for watching.